The first thing I did after being reborn was give my last million to an old beggar. In exchange, I got a 1,000-year-old turtle. Because in my past life, when the heat apocalypse came, my turtle began to mutate. It not only provided clean water for my whole family, but also regulated the temperature around us. I thought we would survive the apocalypse smoothly, but I never expected my wife to secretly make a contract with the turtle. Then she kicked me out of the house, and I was roasted alive under the blazing sun. Now that I got a second life, I secretly hid the lucky turtle away. I wanted to watch them burn to death under the sun. At that moment, I tucked the turtle into my pocket, then went home empty-handed. Where's the bird's nest I told you to buy? If I don't get my bird's nest and goji soup today, then you don't get to eat either. I pulled a shriveled paper ball from my pocket. Not like she knew what the real thing looked like anyway. Sure enough, my wife looked annoyed when she saw it. Is this bird's nest? Be honest, are you trying to fool me? How could bird's nest look like this? This is bird's nest, and it's from the owner's private stash. I wanted to get you the best, so I begged him forever before he gave me a discount. Hearing that, my wife was still half convinced. In the end, she snorted coldly. At least you know your place. Now go cook. After getting away from that wicked woman, I carefully took out a black plastic box to hold my precious turtle. This little turtle was my lucky star. In my last life, it was because of it that my heartless wife and biased in-laws survived the heat apocalypse. 2 days later, just as expected, my turtle began spitting out gold coins. Looking at the glittering gold, I didn't hesitate this time. I called a real estate agent. I want to buy a villa in the suburbs. The more remote, the better. Ideally, somewhere no one can find. I went to a gold dealer and turned all the gold into assets. After buying the villa, I opened a stray animal shelter in a zoo, because I knew that once the heat apocalypse came, even humans could barely fight mutated animals. Only those animals could protect me. Then I contacted the biggest food and supply vendors in town. I want every bit of food and supplies you have. As much as you've got, I'll take it. Money is no problem. Tempted by the huge profits, they soon brought me truckloads of supplies. I also got in touch with a hydraulic engineer and invited him to my villa to design a small hydroelectric station. Soon, 3 construction teams arrived on site. They began drilling, digging, and building the station. Watching the crews work non-stop, I couldn't help imagining, when the heat apocalypse arrived, if my wife and her family knew how comfortably I was living, with water and power, plus tons of food and supplies, what would they think? The hydro station was finished quickly. I bought a bunch of refrigerators for the house. They were filled with raw meat, fruits, and vegetables. To make sure no one got ideas about my supplies, I adopted a large number of stray cats and dogs. One day, I was calming down a newly arrived tabby cat. I could tell this cat had already started mutating, and right then, I saw Chushing from across the street. He had never gotten along with me. In my last life, he kept whispering in my wife's ear, which got me kicked out and baked alive. Meat that good? And you're feeding it to animals? Are you out of your mind? You're the one who's out of your mind. Oh, now you talk back? No wonder your mother-in-law calls you a freeloader. Before I could argue back, Chusheng walked away. I instantly understood. That guy was going to tattle again. Sure enough, he cried his eyes out in front of my wife, and even twisted the story. When my wife saw her first love had been wronged, she brought my mother-in-law over to confront me. My wife kicked over the tabby cat's food bowl. People can barely get a decent meal. And now it's the cat's turn? Drongbi fan, you're such a wasteful loser. Do I have to beat you? Exactly. If it were me, I'd never feed such good meat to animals. I'd use it to honor my in-laws. I should have let my daughter marry Chusheng back then. What good are you? After that, the two of them punched and kicked me. This family won't live much longer. I'll make sure they pay. After that brutal beating, I became even more careful feeding stray cats in the neighborhood. Finally, after I kept feeding them, many stray animals grew close to me, and the temperature started rising too. The heat lasted for a full week, with no sign of dropping. In fact, the temperature kept climbing higher. Only then did everyone realize something was wrong. At the same time, experts came out to analyze it. Research shows that Earth has now entered the heat apocalypse era. Researchers have discovered that many creatures are mutating to different degrees. We firmly believe that once humanity survives this era, our civilization will rise to a new level.